Welcome to the Fieldcraft Survival Podcast. Guys, I'm your host for the ad space. My name is Kevin Estella. I'm the director of training. This is going to be a really good podcast featuring our good friend Kevin Owens, who's heading up Fieldcraft North Carolina. Along with him today on the podcast is Rick Hogg, who is a Delta Force dog handler. Really, really amazing individual. Someone who has done some pretty great stuff for this country that we live in. First sponsor I want to recognize is Black Rifle Coffee. Black Rifle Coffee is located in Salt Lake City. They've been good friends of ours for a very, very long time. And we've toured their facility. We've seen the company inside and out. I've seen where they print all their t-shirts. I've seen where they roast the coffee beans. I've seen where they have coffee experts and they, can tell you about the different aromas and this and that and all the chemistry behind it. It really is science. Not to mention, I've actually been up in Evan's personal office where he does his podcast, and I've become very, very jealous when I saw the original print he has of, or the original painting he has of John Rambo from the novel First Blood, that he picked up. I don't want to tell you what he paid for it, but let's just say he didn't pay enough. And I'll tell you guys, the Black Rifle Coffee Company, they're good folks. Their website is www.blackriflecoffee.com. I've used their instant coffee on camping trips and hiking trips for I don't know how long now. I even carry every single day. I have a bunch of it in my bag. So I'll tell you that I've used their stuff. I like their stuff. I like the folks. Here at Fieldcraft, we have a Keurig machine, and we've got Black Rifle Coffee pods, which has allowed me to sample all the other ones that are out there. So I'll let you guys decide what your favorite flavor is. Personally, I'm a big fan of Silence or Smooth, but I also like Beyond Black, and they've got something for everyone. So please check them out, www.blackriflecoffee.com. Our second sponsor is Vertex. Website is vertex.com. That is vertx.com. If you use the coupon code Fieldcraft, you will get 20% off of your order. And Vertex makes it all, right? They make clothing, they make backpacks, they make ballistic panel compatible gear. If you are someone who believes, hey, I need to leave my house with not only the sidearm on my waistband, but I also need to carry something compact and deployable inside of a backpack, guess what? Vertex has you covered. I've used the Vertex stuff in the great outdoors. As a survival instructor, I've worn it on a pilot episode that I did for a TV show for the History Channel where I crossed it was 28 miles, I think, through the desert. And that was over 3 days, and stuff held together great. Vertex is a really, really great company offering some clothing that will serve you very, very well for all of your needs. Everyday carry, concealed carry, you name it. So please check them out, vertex.com. The very, very last sponsor we're going to get to today before we get to this podcast with Kevin Owens and Rick Hogg is Triarch Systems. I've said it every single podcast that I've had a chance to talk about our good friends over at Triarch. I'm really hoping that a Triarch pistol lands in my lap or on my desk or under the Christmas tree, because Triarch, they know how to make good guns even better. Big fan of their Tri-11. I'll tell you, it feels like it's riding on rails, and they can take a pistol or a rifle that's known for performance and get even more out of it. A number of trainers have them, and I think you guys should look into them too. Again, great folks, good friends, longtime friends of Fieldcraft. So go to their website, www.triarchsystems.com, use the coupon code Fieldcraft, and you'll get 5% off your order. And with the current price of ammo, I've said it before, I think 5% off your order might get you, I don't know, at this rate, maybe a single primer. Yeah, I think you'll get a primer, because God knows how much those things are going for now. All right, folks, without further ado, here is our long-range expert, Jedi Master, Kevin Owens, interviewing Rick Hogg.
Hey, everyone. Welcome back to the Fieldcraft Survival Podcast. I'm your host, Kevin. And today I'm sitting in Fayetteville, North Carolina, talking to Rick from Warhog Tactical. So I got introduced to you last year. I think Mike introduced me. We kind of stomped a lot of the same grounds in the special operations community. And we're just going to kind of sit down, have a chat today. Cool. Thanks for being on the podcast.
Hey, thanks for having me, brother. Appreciate it.
Yeah. I think I got this from Mike, but I always have a template on how I start these things because I think it's important to provide context. Mm-hmm. So what I like to do is just go back to the start and talk about, you know, where you're born, where you grew up, kind of early influences on life. And I'm always interested on, you know, what was that trigger point where you said, you know what, I want to be a soldier? And, you know, you get different things. Everybody thinks that, you know, guys who spent their life in the military or in special operations have, you know, they grew up and they always wanted to do that. But that's not always the case. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it hits them later on. And, but quite often it hits them around the age of, you know, 15. Maybe it's the puberty thing or whatever. And they're like, oh man, that looks like a cool job, right? Yeah. And, you know, we all grew up with the influences of Vietnam and all those conflicts that were going on back then. So I always think that's a kind of interesting way to start. So if you could just take it from there.
Yeah, buddy. Thanks, Kevin. Mm-hmm. So I grew up in New Hampshire. Really, I'm thinking I'm going to go back even earlier to when I was going to join the military. So you got to think in family lineage, my dad was a Vietnam vet. My grandfather was a World War II vet. So serving was in there. You got to think, like I said, the Vietnam era, there was a lot of that influence going on. You know, John Wayne, the Green Berets, a classic movie. So really, when you look at education-wise, man, what are these guys doing? And that's something I want to do. So I would say 100%, you know, John Wayne, the Green Berets, big factor in my life. Obviously with the family history as well. And then when you kind of fast forward, you know, I think a lot what set me up for success within the Army Special Operations was actually wrestling in high school. So my coach, man, unbeknownst to me, he was medieval, right? So he would sit there and first day of practice here, I'm a freshman, you know, I'd wrestled a little bit beforehand, but you go to high school, you're kind of in the big leagues now, get out there and I'm thinking day one, hey, we're going to learn some moves. Nope, all conditioning, you know, and next, you know, guys are quitting. And this goes on for like probably 2 or 3 weeks.
I'm going to ask you a question because I'll forget if I don't. And I already probably know the answer. Mm-hmm. When you're in a group of guys and guys are quitting, does that fuel you even more? Do you like take that energy from them? Because I used to do this myself and I've talked to a bunch of SF guys, and especially when you're in selection and then all of a sudden 20 people quit and 30 people quit. You're like, they're quitting, really? And you always pull that energy from them.
So you do later on in life, you do. Mm-hmm. So this is the thing. Back when you're, you know, a freshman in high school, what are you like 14 years old or something? Are you drawn off that energy? Well, you're kind of like, hey, better them than me. I'm just going to keep going. Yeah. But yeah, later on in life, you know, especially, you know, out at SFAS, guys are bailing. Yeah. Like, beat it, buddy. Yeah. You know, it fuels you more. Yeah. Plus, too, you're going there with such a desire. Yeah. You know, that, hey, I'm going to keep rolling no matter what. So, yeah. But that, you know, like I said, the wrestling and what you find, and I think people forget this, right? So the freshman year, kind of new thing, right? But you get through it, no big deal. So what happens next year? You're doing the same thing, but you know what to expect. So you keep driving on. So it's that mindset of, yep, coach has his magic formula, whatever we're going to do. You keep PTing us. Yep, guys are quitting. All right, we get the magic number. We start actually training. Goes on for 4 years. So I was already preconditioned, if you want to say, to embrace the suck, for lack of better terms. Then you show up, you know, go down to Fort Benning, Georgia for almighty one station unit training, you know, and it's just, it's another day. Yeah. It's no big deal. Yeah. And, you know, you kind of take it from there throughout your career.
Did having been from a military family who fought in conflicts, were your parents on board going in the military? Like, was your mom like, oh my God, you know what I mean? Because she'd been through that lifestyle?
They didn't show it if they weren't. Now, here's what I'll say, because I signed up at 17, so I needed their signature to do the delayed entry program. Because originally, and I'll date myself here a little bit, SF actually had the SF baby program. What ended up happening was, when I was originally talking to the recruiters, that was going to be my plan, was to be an SF baby. But at that 87 time frame, that's when SF went to a branch. That all went away. And it's like, hey, we can give you this 11 X-ray airborne, no bonus, by the way, contract. And it's like, yeah, sure, sounds good.
You went in what year?
So actually I went in 88, but I did delayed entry in 87.
Damn, you don't look that old, man.
29.
Okay. Yeah, the SF Baby program was the 18 X-ray program where you come straight in off the street and sign up for special forces and then go through all the training.
Well,
and
it's 18 X-ray now.
Yeah.
I forget because you got to think, they didn't have the 18 designation
right.
yet.
Yeah.
I think it was the Sierra designation
Okay.
for like the 11 series or whatever your MOS was.
Yeah. It's funny how it went away and then it came back later on.
Yeah.
And so a lot of the senior leaders who brought it back were actually 18 X-rays in the early 80s. Like the regiment command sergeant major Brian Edwards, who's a friend of mine, spent 32 years in SF, became the highest ranking enlisted member in the whole unit. He was an 18 X-ray back then, right? So, and it came back because number one, we needed people. Lots of people because of what was going on in the war, and then you get that longevity, right? You get a 22-year-old kid, and you get him in, and he goes through training, and he's 24. Well, now he's got so much longevity that they stay in the unit, so you get a lot out of them.
You do, and I think there's pros and cons to it.
There is.
So your 18-year-old, he's 18. Does he really have a lot to offer?
Yeah.
Where you look at guys, when SFAS wasn't accepting 18 X-rays. All right, you get guys that have a little more time in, a little more experience.
Yeah.
Now, I think the 18 X-ray program works. Hey, if you're the 20-something and you've got some world experience, Superman, you're bringing something to the plate.
Yeah.
So it's similar when you look at like people will smash the SF guard guys. Man, but you look at some of these guys, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And you look at their outside skill sets and you go, you've got a whole suite. You've got guys that are professional carpenters, welders, whatever. I mean, you could have doctors. So it's people throw them under the bus, but you're like, look at the skill set these guys have.
Yeah. I know early on in GWAT, like in the Afghanistan invasion and soon thereafter, when SF units were like gathering intel and interrogating people, a lot of these guard guys were cops.
Yeah.
Man, they crushed it.
Exactly, man.
Yeah. I'd never, and the X-ray program has pros and cons, right?
Sure.
It really does. And I think the cutoff now is 22 to go into it, I think. And, like I ran the Warrior Leader course and they all came through basic AIT airborne selection, and it came to me for 3 weeks. So I had a lot of them. And I tell you, a lot of them highly educated, college degrees, very physically fit, knew what they were getting into under no illusion. You're always going to get some guys that are immature, but you get that everywhere, right? Yeah. So it really does have pros and cons. So you couldn't go into the X-ray program, so you went in the infantry.
Yep.
You're like, I just want to be an infantry guy, right?
Well, yeah. Well, I got the airborne option as well.
Oh, okay.
So, okay. I knew I wanted to do the whole airborne thing.
Yeah.
Do the old one station unit training down at Fort Benning, get airborne school done. So I tried, the Rangers were down there recruiting, tried to go over to Ranger Regiment, but check it out, because I was in 11 Charlie. They weren't taking 11 Charlies. I'm like, what's the difference?
Yeah.
Whatever. So
it's all timing. It's all timing.
It's all it is.
Yeah, yeah.
So I wind up coming up to Fort Bragg, 82nd Airborne Division, 1st Battalion, 505th Parachute Infantry Regiment. And it was a great place. So I had a great first squad leader that taught me probably the most valuable lesson I've taken from leadership. And he's like, when you're looking at leaders, do this. He's like, you want to take the bad that you learn from people, stick that in one pocket. You want to take the good from those other leaders, stick that in the other pocket. Always draw from the good, but remember the bad. And it's one of those that, you may have some poor leaders out there, but if you didn't like their style, you didn't like the way they're doing business, don't emulate. Because you see too many guys that start going down that road.
Yeah, you probably had some leaders at that time that were Vietnam vets, right? Had that combat experience, and it's. I was in the Irish Army at this time, but I can't imagine how different the military was when the time you get out to the time you're in the late 80s. It had to be like a completely different mindset, because it went through a rough period after Vietnam, and it became very, very kind of not the place to be. It transitioned, but it was coming back by the late 80s after Reagan and all that, right? Yeah.
It was coming back, but we're still a peacetime army.
Yeah.
So you got to think, Panama kicks off in 89, kind of little inject, because we had Vietnam vets. We also had some Grenada Raiders as well. So you've got some guys that have seen some combat, passing some lessons down. But then Panama kicks off, so you get kind of that inject. Fast forward, in 90, Desert Storm kicks off. So now, boom, you wind up, so versus having part of the division have some combat experience. You got the entire division. So you saw a slight shift during that time frame.
Yeah. Did you get to go to Desert Storm?
I did.
You did?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. 82nd. Paratroopers with no armor, go ahead and sit in the desert, dig a hole, and get a rocket and stand by.
That was pretty much, that was it, Kevin, right?
Yeah.
So when we first got there, you got to understand, guys that are experienced at GWAT nowadays, living high on the horse. Mm-hmm. Pretty much, they blew us out. We get over to Saudi Arabia.
Jungle boots, BDUs, LCE, Vietnam LCE.
Yep. But we did get a blistering 2 sets of the chocolate chip.
Oh, high speed.
Yeah, buddy.
What's your M16?
Oh, yeah.
A2.
M16A2.
Iron sights.
Oh, yeah.
I love how, working Force Mod, and I see what we have now, and I don't want to be that, back in my day, right? But
it worked. That's the
you made
part.
It work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna hit some points here. The art of iron sights, in my opinion, has been lost.
Yeah. Oh, it has. Yeah.
Because if you ask somebody nowadays, hey, what's your battle sight 0? They have no idea what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Yeah. So
if you think about it, back in the day, you got your M16A2, or some of us even had A1s earlier on, but we won't get into that. I could, in essence, pre-adjust my sights to confirm my 0 when I went to the range. It was, I think we had it scribed. I think our SOP was in the left edgier Kevlar or whatever.
That's
right
high speed right there, man.
Look there,
Yeah.
left 4, up 2, whatever it was.
Yeah.
And boom.
Yeah.
Because at that point, it didn't matter. I could grab whatever rifle, put these adjustments on, and it's zeroed, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's an art that's been lost. But
but I think that's always going to be the case, right? You're always going to, I think there's a dangerous kind of theory of replacing training with equipment in these days, right?
Sure.
Go, well, if we give them this equipment, we won't have to train on these skills, and then that skill set's lost, right?
But see, I agree with you, but I disagree.
I don't think it's a good thing.
No.
I think there's a natural progression.
Sure.
And things fall off, right? But there's some things that should never go away. Map and compass should never go away.
Exactly.
I don't care how many GPSs you have. They will screw up when you need them most, right?
Yeah.
So there are things that, and I look at young soldiers now and I'm like, how much shit are we going to strap on these guys? Because they're going to be okay at a lot of things.
Sure.
And they're going to lose, when you try to do everything, you don't do everything really, really well. So there's a balance there, right?
Yeah. And to me, I don't know what they're doing nowadays.
Yeah.
I'm removed as far as, hey, what are they teaching at basic and even down at the organizational level?
Yeah.
But if you train guys on iron sights,
you
lay that foundation and you go, hey, you've got the skill set with these. Cool. Now I can start adding other optics on there that's just going to enhance your capability.
Yeah.
And I think that's the key part people forget. These are, this equipment is to enhance their capability, which should have already been built.
Right.
On
Foundation.
That. Exactly. A good, sound, foundational. But like I said, when they don't know what their battle sight 0 is, I'm like, come on, guys, we're losing. Yeah. We're losing a little bit.
It's a whole world. Did you have pluggers back then?
So we did.
Yeah.
But here's the
a plugger is the early GPS, right? And it made its debut, as I remember, in Desert Storm, right? And I remember hearing about it and I'm like, this thing shoots up and hits a satellite and comes by. I'm like, that is amazing.
But here's the problem, right?
Yeah.
It didn't give you true coordinates.
Right.
Because what I understood back then is they were purposely messing up. So now if the enemy had it, they weren't giving them proper GPS coordinates.
Okay.
So there was some magical formula. I forget what it was. Because I think the platoon sergeant was really the only one that had one.
Yeah.
And all right, hey, you've got to take these last 3 digits, adjust this, add this, do some algorithm to get, here's your actual grid.
Wow. Yeah. But, so nowadays every GPS gives you bang accurate coordinates, right?
Yeah.
But I can imagine at the time they're like, we got to protect this technology.
Yep.
And it was something when you're traveling across basically a pool table terrain in the desert, that to be able to pinpoint your location even within a couple of 100 meters is huge.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was a pretty big leap in technology right there.
What was that? But you got to look at, technology. So you find out when they start making all the oil fires, Yeah, we had some nods, had the old PVS 7s.
Yep.
But you need, Starlight.
Yeah.
Dude, those things did not work.
No. The desert is one of the most darkest places I've ever been in my life.
But then you start slapping oil fire in there.
Yeah.
Because you got to think, our chocolate chips went from being brown and multicolored to pretty much black.
Yeah.
We were covered in that oil.
What does your lungs do?
Got this bad cough. Yeah. But it was one of those where guys are living good nowadays in the GWAT. You got to think, we got over there.
Yeah.
They were shipping us, I think it was like Hardee's hamburgers and a can of Pepsi. And that was our quote unquote rations that were obviously cold because they didn't want you eating the MREs. We were stacked up like cordwood in some mechanic's bay. Yeah. And it was like, when we said that, the line in the sand, we drew a line in the sand. Hey, this is where we're going to hold our defense. Yeah. The intent was, as the Iraqi tanks were coming south, we're going to use dragons or tows to take them out. Yeah. Hopefully they go off the side of the road in this soft dirt. Yeah. And that was where the fight was going to be.
So I had a drill sergeant I went in 96 in the U.S. Army, and he talked about being a 82nd Airborne paratrooper in Desert Shield, Desert Storm. And he told me that. He was like, they basically made us dig a hole in the sand, give us some rockets. Yep. And be like, let them come and smoke them, or go down in the hole and let them pass and shoot them in the rear.
Well, it was, the thing was, we were going to take them out. There was this one road coming from Iraq into Saudi Arabia. Or it was, because we didn't go into Kuwait. It was over in Saudi Arabia, was where our little line was. Yeah. And the intent was, you take out the first one, that causes the bottleneck. The rest are going to go off to the side into this soft dirt. So we went out there and checked out the dirt. Yep. Tank treads wouldn't support. And then you just start, playing whack-a-mole. Yeah. That was the defense.
Okay.
All right. Hey, breeze well.
It is what it is. Yeah. Luckily, you didn't have to test the theory, right? Yeah. How old were you?
20.
Good for you. Yeah. Wow, that's awesome. So did you actually roll when the Desert Storm piece came in? You guys rolled into Kuwait?
We went to Iraq. So we were 82nd was the big Western swing.
Oh, okay. Yeah. And the French Foreign Legion
with
and
the French.
Yeah.
And here we are checking out the French because at some point we linked up with them, right? Yeah. These guys are drinking wine. They got these fancy MREs. And
hey, it's French.
Yeah. It's like, what's this rubbish, man? It's like, look, these guys are living high,
Yeah. I've had French MREs. Man. They were good. Yeah.
We made that big swing to the west, and Talil Airfield was kind of our final objective.
What kind of vehicles?
So we heloed in. Okay. And then somehow we started getting, I think, Humvees and Deuce and a Halves finally started coming up and just made our push up in there.
Yeah, so you did a big Western flank. Okay, cool, man. Yep. How was that experience for a young soldier at that time? Was that like, this is the stuff I joined up for? Or was it like, this is BS, man?
You got to think, we got there. So I got there in August. Technically, Desert Storm didn't transition until, I think it was 15 January 91. So it was a bunch of sitting around, a bunch of hanging out, a bunch of, hey, let's make some concrete weights and let's try to be proactive and do stuff that Joe's going to do.
Pooping in the porta potty things where you pull the thing out and you burn it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that was all luxuries later on. Like, we didn't have any of that stuff when we first got there.
So it's just a hole in the sand. In a sandstorm.
That's it, man. So the burning the buckets, that came later on. Yeah. But then again, same did, the burning of the trash pits and all that other crap. So that's where all that framed from. But it wasn't until the 15th, somebody tells us, hey, Desert Storm or Desert Shield's now Desert Storm. You start seeing the air raids going off, and then we start, creeping closer to the border. And I forget exactly. And this is one of my things I tell guys. I highly recommend to anybody out there listening, take a lot of pictures and journal. Yeah. Because it'd be really cool to be sitting here and going, yeah, Kevin. Yeah. So on 15 January 91, Desert Storm kicked off. I was here. I did this. Yeah. Just a quick snippet.
I'd agree, man. I've been in so many cool places in my life. I spent 9 months in Mogadishu, Somalia as a contract. I got like 5 pictures that somebody gave me when I did. It wasn't important to me. Yep. I didn't care about it. Well, man, I care about it now.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's one thing. That's one lesson I always try to tell people. Yeah. If you can at least do a daily journal, just a quick, hey, snapshot of the day. Yeah. Take pictures with everybody. Yeah, because there's people that I don't have pictures with that are no longer on this earth.
Yeah, how cool would it be to
that's it, man.
20-year-old you and your BDUs and your jungle boots and freaking
yeah. We got a couple of those and stuff, but that would be one thing. But I know as it progressed, we moved up closer to the border. And I remember sitting there on the border going, all right, I think it was a sortie of 3 B-52s flew over. And about 15 minutes later, they dumped their payload. And this is like dark 30 when you're on fire guard or watch or whatever you're doing. And man, you could feel the overpressure from there. Yeah. So it kind of put a reality. If you think back, we're talking earlier, watching those Vietnam movies and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Of watching these B-52 strikes.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there going, man.
Yeah.
Them boys on the other end.
Yeah.
If I'm feeling it way back here, whatever 15-minute, 20-minute flight is for a B-52, those guys have got to be getting wrecked.
Devastating.
Yeah.
Devastating. Was there a sense of, like, with you and all the other younger soldiers, was there a sense of, we're going to the combat and we might die?
I don't know that ever.
I don't know that. Yeah.
Death wasn't. Yeah. I don't think it ever came up.
Yeah.
Because you were so instilled. You're this invincible.
Yeah.
You're hard as woodpecker lips.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was the old saying. Hard as woodpecker lips. So
we're gonna go mess these guys up.
That's it, man.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
So there was never. I think this day and age, it's more in your face. The war's been prolonged. There's been more death with it.
So many guys have died.
Exactly.
Like I remember being in Afghanistan, sitting in the special operations base there in the chow hall in 2014. I was eating chow and I was looking at the TV in the back, and it had a scroll of all the guys who had died. And as I was eating, I was looking. I was like, oh, I know him. I was on the Q course with him. And then I put my head down. I'm eating cereal, and I go, oh shit, I know him. I was there when he died. I put him in the helicopter, and then I'm like, oh, I know him as well. And just as it scrolled, it made me realize how many guys I've known who have died. So I think it's more real now. And maybe it's that I don't even know if you guys did this, but before you go, you do your will, you take a picture that they use when you die, and none of that. Yeah.
You got to think back then, literally we blew out. So the DRF, the division ready force, whatever, that thing was in cycle.
Yeah.
Literally from flash to bang, we got pulled from the field. And within 5 days later, I'm sitting on top of a C5 with, a bunch of Sheridans down below flying over to Saudi Arabia. And I was lucky to get, a few desert items. We got the chocolate chips. I think a ruck cover. But we still had the same old leather jungle boots and all that stuff. And it's like, pack your stuff and go.
Yeah. 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 And then 911 force, man. 82nd.
Yeah. That's it.
Yep. So how long did Desert Storm? I've talked to other guys. Obviously, I wasn't there, but I was in Lebanon when Desert Storm was going on. Believe it or not, the first time I ever seen NBC gear, they gave it to us there because they were afraid that they'd shoot chemicals into Israel and blow across. Right? So I was like, I ain't wearing this crap, But so once it launched and the invasion within, you were probably done with it in a very short time. And then did they leave you in place for a long time, or did they pull you out?
We were, and again, this is where the journal would be critical to know how long. So we stayed in Talil for a while. And pretty much what they did was they gave us a sector and was like, hey, go try to figure out whatever equipment is there and destroy it. So you find out things like, hey, on a ZPU 23 that the trigger's on the floor, it's got a foot pedal trigger, and all of a sudden, hey, what's this thing? Somebody hits the button, pop, pop, pop. Oh, what the hell? Yeah.
Yeah.
But we were just out there destroying everything. So pretty much we were all out of explosives, all like grenades. I remember we ended up torching, I think it was like a commo trailer via a pack of MRE matches, burning a mattress that was in there. And we were just annotating, hey, here's your laundry list of the stuff we blew up. Oh, by the way, I am 2 away from getting my ace. I don't know if the birds have to be flying, but destroyed a couple MiGs in there as well. So that's kind of like the big claim to fame, 2 away from an ace.
Yeah.
But
yeah, pretty cool experience for a young soldier, right?
Oh, it was great. 100% it was.
Yeah.
Hey guys, this is Kevin with Fieldcraft. Just want to interrupt this podcast to recognize one of our sponsors, and that is Element. LMNT. Their website is drinklmnt.com/fieldcraft. Actually, that's our special link. If you use that special link, drinklmnt.com/fieldcraft, you are going to get a free sample pack, and all you have to do is just pay shipping. Now, Element is a really, really interesting electrolyte replacement. something that I'll say about it is that we're not the only ones that like it here at Fieldcraft. I mean, it's a great electrolyte replacement. Folks have been using this for a while. FBI sniper teams, the Marines, Olympic teams, Navy SEALs. So we're jumping on the Element bandwagon because it's good stuff. A lot of us over here at Fieldcraft like it. And I'll tell you that all you got to do for this is just pay shipping, right? Pay shipping, you can get a chance to try a whole bunch of it. Chances are you're going to probably get some. What's really cool is if you guys are like on the keto diet, or if you're just starting the keto diet, you normally get this crazy headache. This actually helps kind of alleviate that. And it's a great way to keep you from being groggy throughout the day and keep you hydrated throughout the day. So the sample pack that you're going to get, if you just go to drinkelement.com/Fieldcraft, will include 8 packets of assorted flavors. And like I said, you're going to find one that you're going to really like and you're going to buy some, guaranteed. So please check them out. And I think you guys are going to be satisfied. All right, back to the podcast.
Do you remember how long you spent on the ground before you came back?
Yeah, so we got over there. I think I got on the ground 8 August, if I recollect correctly, and I left back for the States 1 April 91.
Okay, that's a pretty good chunk because I've known other guys who were there and they went in, they did their thing, and they pulled them right out and sent them back. You know,
we were pretty much there for the duration.
And you were living tough, right?
Oh,
yeah.
I mean, we went 77 days without getting a physical shower.
Okay.
So we took, I remember they had the field shower unit set up, one right before we crossed over the border. Mm-hmm. Crossed over and didn't see a real shower until I got back to Cobalt Towers.
Yeah. And there's people who would criticize the military for that, but you go to, like Rumsfeld said, you go to war with the army you have.
Yep.
And you suck it up, right? And you suck it up and you accomplish your mission. Mm-hmm. And you don't go, there's very few places anywhere goes now. We don't have internet. And you know what I mean? It's great that you have that support package, but it shouldn't be the default expectation. Like you go and you suck it up and you do your job.
You do your job and that's it.
Yeah. So once you came back, did you ever think about getting out, or were you like, I'm a soldier for life?
No. So here's the funny thing. So when I got back, you got to think everything was shut down at that point.
Yeah.
So
businesses went out of business in Fayetteville, North Carolina, because all the soldiers were gone.
Right.
Yeah.
But I'm not even getting so much to the local businesses. When I say everything was out of business, you got to think pre-Ranger was shut down. Mm-hmm. Ranger School was still, I think they might have had a pause. I'm not sure if they were full going or not. But they said, hey, does anybody want to go to Ranger School? Oh, by the way, there's no pre-Ranger. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, oh yeah, sign this guy up.
Yeah.
I said, no suffering before the suffering.
That's a good time to go.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm in. So yeah, at no point, it wasn't like that experience, all of a sudden I'm like, man, I'm getting out. Nope. It's like, all right, hey, what's the next thing? Because again, at the end of the day, Special Forces was the ultimate goal. Because you got to think, when you come to Fort Bragg, especially in the late 80s, you got to think there was 3 different Special Forces groups here.
Yeah.
5th group was still here.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
7th group was here.
3rd group, yeah.
3rd group was coming on board. So there was a lot of, special operations influence going on.
Yeah.
And as a young paratrooper, having to do some stupid stuff, and then you go, hey, man, how come these guys are out in the range wearing no Kevlars?
Yeah.
Hey, man, how come they don't have high and tights? Who are these guys? I want some of that,
Yeah.
But it was one of those, I knew I wanted to do that before coming in, but it just solidified that much more.
Right. Yeah.
And in my mind, hey, come back from Desert Storm. All right, let's get Ranger School knocked out. Cool. And then, shortly after getting Ranger School done, then went off to SFAS.
Yeah, there was a minimum requirement, right? Back, it was 2 years or whatever it was, or was there? I can't remember.
I think there was.
Yeah.
And again, I don't recollect what it was. I think there was a rank requirement. If I recollect, and I think there was an age requirement. Mm-hmm. So it had to be. It couldn't have been 22. Well, no, it might have been. I don't know why.
I'm sure it was ranked because there's no E4s in SF, right?
No.
They're E5 and above. When you went to selection, I will jump forward a little bit because you worked at selection later on.
Yep.
How much had it changed, or was it generally the same?
180 out.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Was it better, or was it?
Which one?
The later one, was it better? Was it, or was the early one better? Because
I'm gonna say the early one was better.
Really?
And here's why.
Yeah.
When you look at it, so at that point, They had, I believe, they used the SASR, their selection process, which is very team orientated, and brought that to SF. The team events that we did were very much team events. That was so when you look at SFAS, I'm going to say back in the 90s, land nav really, they didn't care about it.
Really?
They cared about miles on your feet. You walked the roads.
Yeah.
They knew exactly how many. So they called it orienteering.
Yeah.
But it was basically, hey, you're still going to Hoffman.
Yeah.
But I'm basically going from 4Y road intersection or 3 and 4Y road intersection. I'm going down to, the Hoffman's kids school or whatever that little, prison out there. Then I'm going from there and I'm going up over to Puppy Palace. So I'm going wherever. So they were putting miles on your feet.
Yeah.
And that was just kind of to break guys down.
Okay.
And then really where the money came in my opinion, was that team week.
Is that because of the mission SF have? Because you've been to other things later on where it's not team oriented, it's individual oriented, right? And do you think that the team dynamic in selection assesses a guy better for the job he's about? Okay,
100%.
That's interesting.
100%.
Yeah.
Because if you can operate, because let's think about it, you don't realize what's going on when you're being assessed.
Yeah.
Now, when you're an assessor, you kind of understand the rhyme and reason.
Yeah.
Because initially we didn't have a good team week and that wasn't even really going. It slowly started trickling in. But when you look at SF and the dynamics, you want a guy that's a full team player. There's a time when you got to step up and be the chief. There's a time you got to sit back and just be one of the Indians. There's time to give input. There's time not to. And you really see that, especially when you're trying to build these contraptions. All right, cool. You have a one-wheeled trailer. How are you going to get this thing from point A to point B?
Yeah.
How are you going to haul these ammo cans? Who's working? Who's not? Push the Jeep, carry the sand babies. All those things drive that whole team factor home.
Right.
And then, oh, by the way, there's little things that happen to you along the way that even just, how do you assess, I don't want to say failure, but how do you assess somebody for like the unknown?
Yeah.
So I will say this, when we were doing sand babies, there was a guy there from first group. And if I butcher his name, I'm sorry, but he was like Sergeant Paptupinos, little short, either Vietnamese, Filipino, little Oriental guy, but he had the smallest hands. And I think the rule was, hey, no more, you couldn't have more than a handful of tail sticking out of that sandbag.
Explain the sand babies.
So the sand babies were just basically carrying, they were just sandbags filled up to a certain point. And you had to fill the bag. It wasn't like just throw a little bit of sand. It had to be filled all the way to the top, where when you grab the top of the sandbag, once it's tied off, there's no more than a hand excess on that tail.
Okay.
So you look at your average person, fairly big hands, right? Now you look at, Sergeant Papatupinos, he's got small Oriental guy. I mean, if he was 5 something, he was like little short dude, little short hands.
Yeah.
And that first run, because you're going to go all in, right? Some guys are carrying 2 bags, some guys are carrying 3. You get there, he's the checker. Boom, 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 boom. Nope, nope, nope. And it wasn't like you could dump the sand there. Oh no. Haul the bags back, then dump them, then refill them to the proper size, knowing, hey, we've got to make this thing half of our hand size because he's the checker.
Yeah.
So it was just one of those, did guys freak out? Did they, throw hizzies? You just deal with it. All right, cool. Hey.
So as an assessor later on, during team stuff, are you looking at leadership when the guy is put in charge, or are you just looking at the team dynamic?
You're looking at everybody.
Yeah.
So you're assessing this team and you're going, yep, hey, roster number so-and-so, you're the TL. And all right, hey, can he take charge? Yeah. Is he so overwhelmed that he can't build a contraption? Is he being muscled out of the way because somebody else is taking charge? So you're looking at the whole team. Yes, there's a certain guy in charge, but again, they all got their roster numbers on there. And I go, yep, 1, 2, 3. He's a jerk because, he's not letting this guy do the thing, or he's trying to lead the show, or he's just sitting back, not doing nothing. So you take that, you take everybody into account and what they're doing.
That's cool, man. Okay. So you go to selection and you get picked up, obviously. First time go, you go back to the 82nd, I assume, and you get orders.
Yeah.
Was it frowned upon when you went to selection?
100%.
Yeah.
So let's set some things in context, because that was a very rough year for me. So you got to think, back in the 90s, we had a year wait from completing SFAS to go to the Q course.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
Was that because of the pipeline? Was that because it was like a standard thing for some others to not screw your unit and leave too quickly?
No, it was just that's at that time, the numbers weren't being pushed. So you got to think back then, I think, maybe 350, graduates per year were getting through the Q course. So they weren't sized to the numbers.
No.
So you're like, okay, cool. I've got to wait a year to go to the course.
Yeah. I should probably know this, but did SF have a tab at that point?
Yes.
They did. Okay.
We did have a tab.
Yeah, that was a huge fight too. I think my G chief in Robin Sage, old school SF guy, awesome dude, but he was telling us that the Army did not like that word special.
Yeah.
And that was a huge fight to get that tab.
You're going to bring up so much stuff on that part there. Let me hit the year purgatory, and then we'll get into some SF nuances. So you got to think at that point, still in the 82nd, but I'm a ship jumper, right?
Yep.
So graduate SFAS, go to Q course state. I'm the only guy in my battalion to have the jump master pre-card. They will not send me. Why? It's like, you're leaving. I'm still staying in the Army, man.
I know. I hate that. And you've probably come across that a bunch of times in your career. And I've seen that too.
Yeah.
Like, oh no, we want it for us, you know?
But you've got nobody qualified, and they would not send me to jump master school because I was leaving.
Yeah.
They wouldn't send me to any schools because I could look at the company OML list. I knew exactly where I sit because all these black lines, that was me.
Yeah.
So in essence, I hung out for a year, shunned because you're ship jumping. I'm like, I'm going to get better.
Yeah. Was there an option, and I've never done this, but I've heard of it. It used to be where you could go OJT with group while you're waiting.
So I try to bamboozle that, and I forget, again, if I had my journal looking back, I did try to do that. Because you got to think, I had, 3 groups here at the time trying to work something. And I think if I recollect, they just didn't want to. It was one of those where you were unproven. Yeah, you passed selection, but you weren't qualified. What were you really going to do? Yeah, hang out at the CQ. I don't know, but I don't recollect. I know somebody had mentioned that. I tried it, but I don't know why that didn't come to fruition.
You just didn't talk to the right guy.
Probably not.
That's usually what happens, right?
Yeah, you
talk to the right guy, the right company sergeant major. But like, hell yeah, come on over, man. We'll give you a leg up. But it's all a lot of it's personality. Stuff. Yeah.
So you kind of do that, but getting back to your other point, this whole SF things, let's just call it, right?
Yeah.
So you got to think there's a time and place that the Green Beret was organizational headgear.
Yes, I remember. I lived in Ireland at the time, and I remember reading an article where some Vietnam veteran was writing. He was like, back in my day, if you saw a Green Beret, that guy was a pipe hitter, man, blah, blah, blah. And then they gave it to everybody in the unit. Yeah.
So what you wound up happening is you want to know who all your tab guys are, who's wearing the PCs. Because it got to a point, what, you know what? Yeah, I earned it. You're giving it to them. We'll just wear PCs. And then you started seeing a shift because I think the command was like, hey, man, the guys that earned it aren't wearing it.
Yeah.
So we need to do something.
But it's not special anymore.
No.
Yeah. Yeah.
You talked about your Vietnam vet there wanting to get his SF tab, in the fight for that.
Yeah.
Well, here's a better one. So you got to think those of us that were already qualified, now they come out with the Yarborough knife. Yeah. For all the new guys.
Yes. Yeah. I got one. Yeah.
I don't.
Okay.
So again, it's a little animosity point, They
don't give it anymore now. I think they ran out of money. I've heard they don't give it anymore. Okay. So there was a I didn't ask for it, just gave it to me at the end of the Q course, right?
Right. So, but it was one of those contentions, right?
Yeah.
Because you'd have guys show up that have this cool knife, and you're like, hey, rookie, you haven't done nothing.
Yeah.
Where's mine? So, by the way, if I want to get mine, I got to go down there. Now I got to give them my tab orders and my whatever else and this and that. And it was just a hassle.
Yeah.
So it just kind of got a little aggravating. It was like a point of contention that, you get yours.
Yeah.
New guy.
Yeah. It's not his fault.
It's not. It's not. But it was the principle of.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Yeah, that's funny. It has evolved so much. And I remember hearing about that headgear thing. And I don't know how long it was in place. But yeah, if you're talking about not just the Green Berets that are qualified, because we're an Army unit and you have probably 3 to 1 support people for every Green Beret, right? And So you just get orders as a cook, as a clerk, as a freaking maintenance guy, as a driver, and you just go to an army unit, which is 3rd Special Forces, 7th Special Forces. And when you get there, oh, here's your headgear. It's a Green Beret, right? I'm like, oh, I'm a Green Beret. Well, you're not. But yeah, anyway. Yeah, that is funny. Were you there when that was? Mm-hmm. Do you remember how long it was in place, or?
I want to say for a couple of years, because then at some point they transitioned to where, if you want to say all the non-qualified, they went to the Maroon Beret.
Yeah.
So there was something, because again, basically guys weren't, hey, you need to wear your beret. I'm not.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's you have an organizational headgear. I'm not.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because then you would see, and again, I'm not bashing on my support guys, but at the time you'd see all like these Green Berets and people's dashboards. Mm-hmm. And you're like, really, guy?
Yeah.
I know you. And
okay. Yeah. And it's funny how it almost repeated later on when they gave the black beret to the whole U.S. Army.
Yep.
And which was the headgear of the Ranger Regiment, right? Yep. And the Ranger Regiment got pissed and blah, blah, blah. And then they ended up getting the sand SAS color, which I think is a better looking beret. But the mindset was, well, if you give berets to everybody, they'll all be better soldiers. What a ridiculous thing. I saw probably in 2000, because I went to infantry BNOC in 2000. And so that's my frame of reference. And that was all coming out. And I remember seeing Saturday Night Live where they were like reading the news. And, she was like, oh, there's contention over the Army getting the black beret. And, the Ranger Regiment are going to get this maroon or this tan beret. And Airborne's going to have a maroon beret. And the Green Berets will keep their beret. And then she was like, on a related note, these guys need a war. And it was so right, because that's freaking peacetime Army 100%, BS, you know? And what happens is these guys come in and they have to make change, because change equates to an OER bullet. Mm-hmm. And now I've done something good, bad, or indifferent. Don't get me started. And Swit's a big monster for that too. Yeah.
But the beret is a worthless piece of headgear.
It is. It really is. It's like a wet sock on your head in the humidity in North Carolina.
It's hot in the summertime. It doesn't keep the sun out of your eyes.
You can't put it on one hand when you're carrying stuff. You got to put everything down, put it on, shape it. Yeah. I think it should be the headgear for dress uniform, you know?
Yeah.
And then everything else, I don't even think we should have headgear. I think it should be optional. You can go without headgear if you want. I mean, I don't, you have to have a hat in your head when you're outside. And oh God, now that I'm out, I have all the answers, obviously.
Oh, we always do.
Yeah. It's funny to you get so indoctrinated in just the way things are that, and there's guys there's NCOs in the Army that will be driving home and see somebody with a hat on the wrong way, and they will stop and get out and chew them out. And I never had the energy for that. No. I did not.
Nope.
Not really a big enforcer of fashion. No. Yeah. Anyway, sorry. Nope. We went down a side road there, but it's interesting.
Yeah. So then from there, go over to 7th Group, which again was right here in Fort Bragg. Yeah. So if you look at the concurring story, never left Fort Bragg.
Yeah.
Got to my first team, and again, you got to think. So I don't think at that point we might have had some Vietnam vets in the company, but I know for like my team sergeant, you got to think 7th Group.
South America, man.
Exactly. El Salvador. Mm-hmm. El Salvador going on, a lot of stuff down there.
Did you have to go to language school?
So I did.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. I try to set myself up for success prior to. I knew I wanted to go to 7th Group.
As you should. Yes.
As you should. Mm-hmm. So I had a Spanish DLPT qualification. Mm-hmm. Was it the strongest? Nope. But here's the beauty. It paid off for me because, yes, they still sent me to language school, but they sent me to Portuguese.
Okay. Yeah.
Which worked out great because, go to a team that, is also Portuguese speakers, get a trip, down to Brazil out of it. Nice. So there was only one team like that per battalion. So that was a definite pro, and go work with those guys.
I think, I try not to bash SF, and I don't. I'm just stating facts. But, we push the language thing. 7th Group's really the only group who actually can, because a lot of them are Hispanic. A lot of them have Hispanic wives. They practice. They're really good at it. They go down there a lot. They can actually communicate and teach in Spanish and all that kind of thing. Where if you learn Mandarin Chinese for 6 months, that's tough, man.
No, in 7th Group, like you said, and probably 3rd as well, which, French in Africa.
Yeah.
Granted, they've got some Portuguese as well, and I think a couple of languages.
I came out of language school with French for the third group with a 2+2+, like right there, almost fluent. And then went to Iraq and Afghanistan for years and never used it once. Yeah.
But no, seventh group, on that's the beauty. There is no translators. Language is pushed hard as it should be, because you're pretty much doing everything yourself.
That's your advertised capability, right? That's what makes you special.
Sure.
And it's so good for building rapport with a partner force.
100%.
If you can speak their language, man, it's just a night and day difference.
Yeah. And I think those guys have almost, because it would be funny, they've almost gotten used to it, because you would speak Spanish to them, and those that knew English would speak English back to you.
So they're practice.
They're trying to improve their language skills. You're trying to improve yours. So
even in Iraq, like I don't speak Arabic, but I speak enough. I call it combat Arabic, right? I can count 1 to 10. I can say, get in that vehicle. I can say, last man, cover here, or shoot that way. I can speak enough to get by, but even that's enough to build rapport with guys. So seventh group and C37 was in Panama at the time still, right? So what was the mindset of, we're talking like mid-90s now? Yeah. What was the mindset of SF back then? Because you were still your equipment was still very regular Army, right?
Oh, yeah.
You had a couple of little pieces that were kind of special, but it was nothing like the soft equipment we have now is complete, like whole programs, right? But back then you had a carbine, you had an M4. M16s.
M4s had not, no.
Yeah, they didn't come in till like 2000 or something,
no,
right?
We got them in group earlier.
Yeah.
But when I first got to group, it was still M16A2.
Yeah, the infantry, I didn't go to SF till 2002, but in the infantry, I remember we got them in Germany in 2000-ish kind of time frame,
Yeah, so we got them, and again, this is where the journal would be key, but I want to say probably, I think it was 97-ish.
Yeah.
If I, and don't hold me to the date, but you got to think the SIFs, they had, their Car 15s or their M4s beforehand.
Yeah.
But it didn't get to group. It was a little bit later. So I mean, I went on J-sets with M16A2s.
Yeah. Did you do a lot of jungle training? Yeah.
Yep.
I never been, I think I've been in jungle once, but not with the military, but never been in the jungle, never operated in a jungle, hope to never be in the jungle.
Here's the thing. If you know how to live there, it's a great place.
Yeah, I guess.
So part of it was, we go down there and teach, but then at the same token, we're having host nation teach us as well.
Yeah.
So each jungle is a little bit, or at least I won't say jungle, but each area is a little bit different. So, hey, the Ecuadorian guys, all right, man, here's your edible plants. Here's this, here's a water vine. Here's how, you procure food this way. Here's certain things that work here. This plant does this one does that. So it was cool in that aspect, getting those classes from them. Now, some of the things, okay, hey, eat this plant here and it'll cure cancer. All right, dude, if that was the case, you had to give them a little bit going, gotcha. But if you want to run with that, that's fine. But no, I mean, the jungle will provide, it can be, like I said, two ways. It'll provide everything. It'll sit there in probably some of the most harsh conditions around.
Yeah, it'll destroy you, especially at night, right? When everything comes alive. And I imagine if you know what to eat, there's an abundance of food there, and you'll never starve. How was, did you feel when you got through the Q course, as it was at that time, you didn't have to go to SEER back then, right?
Nope.
It was voluntary, right? But as you got through the Q course and you deployed as a young soldier with some experience already, right? Not like you were an X-ray. Did you feel when you went in there, you had the tools it took to do your job? You felt like you were trained and you knew what you were doing? Or did you find like, oh God, I'm lacking and it took a couple of years to build up the experience? Or
no, I felt pretty good. The one thing looking back that I wish, especially on the Bravo side, would have done more. Wish they would have done more on the marksmanship side.
Right.
It was more, hey, here's the weapons, here's how to take them apart. A little bit on shooting stuff, but it wasn't, because you got to think, I'm teaching guys how to do this skill set.
Yeah.
So to me, it would have been, now that's when you have to start, looking at your mentors. This is where you got to start learning, hey, how am I teaching these guys? So how do you teach a guy? And we learn this down there. You got to think, basically third world country. Not everyone's got perfect 20/20 vision.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, these guys don't have corrective lenses. How are you working with the guy that can't see his front sight post?
Yeah.
Can't see the target.
Yeah.
You know, so you got to start going, all right, buddy, how do we work with you? How do we make you try to be as best as you can with your physical abilities?
Yeah. And build his confidence and all that.
Yeah.
It's funny. You just triggered a memory. I remember seeing a documentary on TV about Green Berets in Vietnam. And the guy's like, okay, you got all these montagnards, you know, I'm going to teach you how to read a map. And they put it down and they're like, oh no, that's not right. The world is flat. You'll fall off the edge. You know what I mean? And I think there's something there in the Q course and Robin Sage where you would think like Fade or J-Sets and stuff like that, anybody can do it, but there's something to do on the Q course. And I think Robin Sage where they teach you kind of that how important rapport is, right? And how important not talking down to people and kind of being part of the team and building that teamwork and all that. And I've seen other special ops try to do that and just mess it up because I think it's cultural awareness, a big one, right? Like there's different cultures. You have to approach things differently.
Sure.
Like I tell you, I did a ton of stuff in the Middle East, as did you. You can't talk down to people. You can't negative reinforce people. They don't really respond to, especially officers. You know, you got to kind of build them in and build them up and positive reinforcement and build their confidence. And I've just seen other units, and you probably have too, who just don't get it, man. Yeah. I'm like, you can't talk to them like that, you know? And I imagine South America and that area you worked in, you find different ways to kind of attack problem sets down there and kind of help people out, right? And get them on your side.
Yeah. So I'll give you a prime example. So my first J-Set, we're going down to Costa Rica. Now you got to understand, Costa Rica does not have a military. It's all a police force, but it falls under that national protection. So knowing this, you know, PDS goes down, sees what's going on. Okay, how are we instantaneously going to build some rapport? Well, these guys don't have a set uniform. So we're just going to get some old BDU pants. And oh, by the way, classic SFAS fashion. We're going to sit there, you know, put the engineer tape on there. There's your roster number. Boom. So now I'm not trying to remember everybody. Hey, I know your roster number. And it just transitioned over. But the simple act of me giving these guys a pair of pants. Yeah. Even if they didn't fit the best, they were happy.
Huge.
Because I got guys out there, you know, doing the PT test, running in flip-flops. I got some guys barefoot. Yeah. I got some guys, their tennis shoes are held together with duct tape. Yeah. But a simple act of merely going, hey, bud, here you go. Yeah. And I mean, these guys were so bad off that, we're eating in their chow hall. The meal was rice and beans. Yep. At least for lunch. Well, dinner it might have been beans and rice. Oh, by the way, breakfast. Yeah. You got to get a version of the beans and rice and beans. Yeah. But that's all they had.
But I mean, you sat there and ate with them?
100%.
You didn't go to the American area and eat American food? There was no, or even the reason I say that, I did a thing and we brought an Iraqi special ops unit out to a training area back that way outside because they were it wasn't the Iraqi counter-terrorist force, it was a police unit, but they needed a lot of work on CQB and shooting and, you know, vehicle drills and react ambush and all those things. So we were like, okay, let's bring them out there. It's a big, very well facilitated training area. And we had some other units for sister services that came with us as trainers. And there was a bunch of us. There was like Mike Glover was with us. I think we had like 5 or 6 GBs, right? And we went out there and they had American contract company running the ranges and the tower and all that, but it was an Iraqi base. Sure. So the Iraqis ran the chow hall and all that, right? So when we were out there, we go to chow with our Iraqis, right? Because that's huge. And the guy running the chow hall was stealing all the food, right? So the rations were garbage. Like you get a little thing of chopped up tomatoes and like a piece of meat that I don't even know what it was, right? But this other unit that were with us as Army guys, they all went and ate in the American contractor chow hall. And we sat and we ate that garbage every day. But those guys going to that American chow hall, catastrophic loss of rapport.
Sure.
They didn't want anything to do with them. How can you push guys in training if you're not eating the same food they are? You just don't know where they're at, right?
No.
But the fact that we sat there and ate that crap and went to the bathroom for like an hour or 2 hours afterwards and sucked it up was huge to these guys. And the fact that they didn't want anything to do with those guys. They wouldn't talk to them. They wouldn't respond to them. And but that's what I'm saying. There's something in the Q course that teaches you that this is the right thing to do. You know, and you have to do it.
100%. You do.
Yeah.
But it's funny because then you start seeing host nation reciprocate, right?
Yeah.
So again, going back to this Costa Rica trip, my first experience. All right, sitting there breaking bread with these guys. Well, at some point we had a highlight. We got some soup.
Yeah.
And of course, as we go through, okay, Snuffy in front of me is getting whatever broth soup. And then all of a sudden I get mine. Boom. Big old chicken foot in there. And I'm like, great. Come to find out, by you getting the chicken foot, whoa, that's a big deal to them.
Yeah.
That's going, hey, man. And then it was one of these, so, all right, cool. I got my chicken foot soup. I'm really not going to suck on this chicken foot or use the talons to clean my teeth. So what do? One of the boys is there. Hey, man. How about you take this?
Yeah.
I'm full.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Boom. So now some things that you don't want to eat, you just gave to them. They think they're high on the horse. Oh man, I got the chicken foot.
Yeah.
Boom. I mean, it just ramps that much more rapport building in there. And that's the part that guys don't get. It's if you set rapport with these guys, they will follow you to hell and back. They'll listen
do
to
anything. And if you don't, if you insult them and yell at them, you might get shot on target. It has happened, right?
Sure.
So there's something about the way the Q course is done that drives that home. Or maybe we just select guy. I don't know what it is, but I've seen it multiple times.
Yeah, it's a process of it, but it's also, I boil it down to leadership, right?
Yeah.
Did I know to go eat with these guys in the chow hall? I mean, I think at the time that was the only place to eat, but teams aren't.
Yep.
Let's go.
Yep. Non-negotiable. Yeah.
That's it. Pick up boys. Hey, what time are we going to chow? 12 o'clock or whatever. Boom. Pick up and go.
Yeah.
Or you're done training, boom, where are we going? To the chow hall.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like we were with them 24/7 because yes, we were in that particular case, we were segregated geographically a little bit, nothing crazy, still in the same base, but hey, they were nice enough to stick us by the water. Okay, cool. These guys are up here, close to the chow hall. But yeah, it's instant rapport. And that's the part that people don't get. Once you establish that rapport, man, because what you see down the road, now people start telling you things like, hey, Cousin Miguel says that this, and this is going on. Oh, and now they're feeding you information that you're not soliciting.
Yeah.
That you in turn pass up and.
Yeah. Might save your life.
Might save your life.
Hey guys, Kevin with Fieldcraft again. Another sponsor you should pay attention to, and that is Athletic Greens. Please go to this link, athleticgreens.com/fieldcraft, and you will get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D, as well as 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. Big fan of Athletic Greens. Every time I travel, I have Athletic Greens travel packs with me. Every single morning starts with Athletic Greens. When I started for Fieldcraft, it was towards the end of the first wave of the pandemic, and I packed on a whole bunch of weight. And, I said to myself, I'm like, I'm going to drop this weight. I'm going to get back to where I like to be, my fighting weight. And Athletic Greens were part of that journey. So every single day I started off with Athletic Greens, and I did my thing. And now I'm at my normal fighting weight, which is right around 200 pounds, 202 pounds. And I'm pretty happy with that. I never feel like I am going without my greens because I drink them first thing in the morning. You'll receive, if you purchase this on the site, a mixer bottle, your Athletic Greens, and your vitamin D. Personally, you can decide how much water you want to put in that bottle. I'll go between 8 to 10 ounces because I don't want to drink a lot of water to get my greens. I'll drink actual water. But I just drink it down real fast. It makes it easier to get to work and all that stuff and get on my day. So guys, I like Athletic Greens. I think you will too. It doesn't have any weird, strange, wheatgrass flavor or anything like that. It's actually pretty pleasant. And it's not that terrible to drink down. I actually enjoy it. So please check them out. www.athleticgreens.com/fieldcraft. Get yourself that free 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free travel packs when you make your first purchase. All right, back to the podcast.
Were you guys deploying a lot back then in the 90s? Like, was that a regular rotation to South America? That type of thing?
Yeah,
It was, right? Yeah,
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we had our JSETs in there, and they were pretty much...
What's a JSET set up to do, just for people who don't know?
So it's to train whatever host nation country we're working with.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we would use, FID, foreign internal defense, but it was mainly... under the counter narcotics umbrella, because that was the big thing, was trying to fight the war on drugs.
Yeah.
And of course, it came from a different pot of money. So of course, anytime you got counter narcotics money, it wasn't tapping in to the SF funds. So everyone always wanted to get that. Just so when you look at the whole budgetary, restraints, constraints, whatever, you just had more money to do stuff that way.
Yeah. It's funny because I had this conversation before with somebody like, you think of police officers, right? And everybody bashes cops because they're not well trained in some cases, right? But they go through their academy and then they go to work, right? They bust their ass and they have a very, very difficult job and they're heavily scrutinized. But like, I almost wish they had a model like SF, like you finish the Q course. That's not like you're done and you're a Green Beret. Nope. You're constantly training, even on deployments. Yeah. You're constantly training, constantly upgrading your skills, cross training with medics and bravos and weapons guys and all that. You never ever, like we did training in combat when we were on missions, you know. And I almost wish people would take that template for cops and like you do 3 weeks of work and then you take a week off and you're training,
But Kevin, it can be so much easier, right? Because this is what I tell the LEOs that I train. It's like, all right, guys, I got it. The department's not going to give you, a training day, a paid day, or whatever. Okay, you're telling me you can't take 5 minutes before your shift, clear your gun out, and do some dry fire training.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Mr. Supervisor of these guys. You can't take your guys, which, oh, by the way, you entrust to carry a firearm 365 days a year, have them safely clear their guns before shift or have you do roll call or however their department does business, and you can't spend a couple minutes doing some training?
Yeah.
Come on, man. Yeah. People look at the training thing too broad. It's always like, I've got to go to the range. I've got to do this. Okay, cool. I can sit there, spend a couple bucks, get an airsoft system, leave it in the department where guys can rotate in all the time and work on their skills.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many variables, but
it's like when I was a squadron infantry in Germany, we had a big batch of woods up behind the company. We were out there every day running drills and crossing danger areas and doing ambushes and all that with no bullets and no free.
No,
and
you just worked
free.
Exactly. And that's the problem is people think this day and age, I think technology's kind of bit us a little bit where everyone thinks I've got to go out and I've got to do this cool, sexy stuff and I've got to do this. Okay. Hey, man, what are you doing to work your dry skills?
I guarantee that you as a young guy, young Green Beret in 7th Group at that point, you guys went in the woods of Fort Bragg and practiced breaking contact and patrolling and moving, crossing danger areas and all those fundamental skills that are so important. Yeah. And that's generally what you teach Indige anyway, right? Those very basic infantry skills.
You're teaching them, and that's the part that people don't get. You're teaching them basic skills. That sets your foundation, if you want to say, to do other things. But if you don't have a solid foundation, the rest of it's going nowhere.
Well, what you see sometimes is you see instructors who don't want to teach basics because they're bored teaching it. So they ramp it up too quick, but the student is always at a base level, right? Because you're getting new students all the time. So, well, I don't want to teach walking in a wedge, because I've done it 100 times. Oh, let's do CQB. You know what I mean? Stop. It's new to him, and you need to start at a very, very basic fundamental level. Training philosophy is a very interesting subject. And I think after years and years and years, you kind of learn it and maturity. Like we were talking earlier, when you're a young NCO in the Army, you think yelling and screaming is the way to